Well, welcome back. How you doing? Feeling okay? Please, if you are starting to get a little overwhelmed right now, don't. I promise you, we are going to be here to kind of walk you through, guide you through step by step. These modules are just like drinking from a fire hose. So if you're starting to feel a little overwhelmed, take a little break, step back, take a deep breath, and then pick up where you left off. So module 4, finding your buyer. How much fun was that? I hope you liked it. This module, module 5, which means you're halfway through, is all about whether or not that person you just found is viable, meaning they are good for you. Once again, my name is Cheryl Brown. I'm the director of the North San Diego SBDC. I'm also a procurement advisor. Been involved with government contracting since 2003 and have been working with small businesses since 2007, resulting in over $800 million in contracts awarded to those small businesses, just like you, small businesses just like you. So without further ado, let's jump right in to, is this the right buyer for you? I'll say this over and over and over and over and over again. This goes for the private sector as well. Not all business is good business. Now, I know if you're just getting started out, it's kind of like, hey, I'm going to take everything. Whatever comes my way, I'm going to take that. And I get that. You need to generate revenue. But eventually, you got to take a look and see, is this the best use of my time? Is this the right agency for me? Is this the right buyer for me? And that's what this module is all about, because the last thing you want to be doing, especially when you're pursuing opportunities with the government, and it is invest in a bunch of time that isn't going to result in revenues. Everything you do in your business needs to have the end goal of generating revenue. With government contracting, minimums are really just that. They are a must. The government is legally required to ensure that they award, whether it's a public announcement or not public, that 90% that we've talked about, that your firm meets their minimum requirements, whatever they are. So for example, if your business has been in business for 4 years, 11 months, and there's an opportunity that requires you to be in business for 5 years, you're disqualified automatically. I know it's just 1 month, but the government, there is no gray line here. There's no gray. It's either yes or no. Every agency has different requirements. So, if you're looking at an agency and you want to do business with them, we want to take a look and see what their minimum requirements are. If you can't meet those, it doesn't matter how much they like you, how much they want to do business with you. They legally can't. So the minimums are that. They are the starting point. Past performance, meaning what your company has done in the past, not the individuals within the company, is actually mandated by contract law. The law states in all government contracting, all purchases made with your tax dollars are mandated by law. The law states if you cannot demonstrate the ability to perform, they cannot award to you. And this is especially when you're in a full and open competitive bid. So, all right, I know. You're sitting here going, okay, Cheryl, I just opened my business. I don't have any past performance. My company hasn't performed on anything. I've been doing this for 25 plus years. If I can't be eligible for an opportunity because I don't have past performance, how am I supposed to get past performance if I can't? It's like the chicken and the egg, or the cart and the horse, right? Don't panic. Many of the agencies, I'm going to say probably 99.9% of the agencies, have other procurement options in which some of these requirements are a little bit looser. So find a different agency. So for example, San Diego Unified School District, which is one of the largest school districts in the state of California, has some minimum requirements when it pertains to some of their construction projects. One of the requirements is that any entity that wishes to do business with San Diego Unified School District in the construction trades, there are some other caveats, but generally speaking, must have 3 past performances working on a school district project in the last 12 or 24 months or something. Well, okay, well, wait a minute. If you need to have 3 past performances to even be considered, how are you going to get past performance if they won't even consider you? There are over 40 other school districts in San Diego County. Look at them. Start working with them. Look at some of the smaller school districts and build that past performance. So right now, if you don't have those 3 past performance records, San Diego Unified School District is not a good target for you, at least now. So if that's something that is, if your goal is to do business with San Diego Unified School District, then you need to start building that ability, that past performance with some of the other smaller school districts. There's always a workaround, but this module is really designed to see, okay, I found my buyer. Now, is this the right match for me? Every agency is different, and so please don't assume, because you know what assuming does. An example here is, and I might have already mentioned this. I have a tendency to repeat myself. That's what happens when you have 4 boys and getting old. Navwar, which used to be called Spaywar, they have this big, huge building off the 5 freeway. And so this huge white building obviously needs janitorial services because who else is going to clean, right? So if you sell janitorial services and you want to do that building, well, that's great. But that purchase isn't made by Navwar. That purchase is actually made by NAVFAC, Navy Facilities. So the agency or the entity that is using your services may not necessarily be the entity that's procuring your services. So keep that in mind. If you are a supplier, if you sell products, I'm going to tell you right now, 99% is price. Bottom line. Because let's face it, if I'm a buyer, I can buy a pencil, the same pencil, from anybody. I can buy it from Walmart, I can buy it from Staples, I can buy it from Office Depot, Amazon, whatever. A pencil is a pencil is a pencil. I am required by law to purchase from the entity that has the best price. So one of the first things you're going to want to be doing if you are a supplier is to start negotiating with some of your vendors and your manufacturers with preferred pricing if you can. Keeping in mind, these rules, these aren't set up by the buyer. They don't necessarily even care about the rules. I mean, they care, but they didn't make the rules. So if you don't agree with the rules, if you don't like the rules, I get it. Who likes rules? Don't yell at the buyer. The buyer's just trying to do the best they can. And so a bit of advice, when you're dealing with these buyers and you're communicating with these buyers, have their back, help them. Remember when we talked about in module 3, what to expect and the different individuals? Be nice to your buyer. Don't yell at them. And I know you're like, why would you ever do that? Trust me, when we cover module 7 and we're talking about marketing, I'll give you some examples because there are some horror stories out there. The buyer doesn't make the rules. The buyer just is responsible for making sure that the rules are being met. So a little terminology for this module, past performance. You're going to hear a lot about past performance, especially in module 6, which is the next module on capability statements, because past performance is super important. Past performance is what your company has done in the past, not the individuals within the company. Now, There are some exceptions. So industries that are very technical in nature, in which it's the professionals that actually perform the service and it's their credentials that can help secure a project. And in that case, it may be acceptable. But past performance will always trump professional experience. And the reason behind this is because it has nothing to do with your technical abilities. Nobody is questioning your technical capabilities. What is in question is the infrastructure that you might have in place for your business. So you can look this up. I'm not lying to you. FAR, Federal Acquisition Regulation, Part 32 of the Code of Federal Regulations, Subpart 9.1, Responsible Prospective Contractors. This is copy and pasted from the law. This is what the buyer has to adhere to. They have to award to the company that has the adequate financial resources to perform or the ability to obtain that. How do you prove that? Well, by what you've done before. Must be able to comply with required supply and delivery schedules, in addition to maintaining the current book of business. Have a satisfactory performance record. Have the necessary organization, experience, accounting, operational controls. All of these things, which as a small business owner myself, we struggle with. I can talk to you all day long, but like I tell my kids all the time, do as I say, not as I do. Because as a small business owner, you have so much to do that some of this stuff may have fallen by the wayside. That's the truth, right? But this is why it's so important for the past performance. Now, a lot of times, if there is a past performance requirement on a project, whether it's publicly announced or not, a good question to always ask when appropriate is if they would accept professional experience in lieu of. There are ways around this. Smaller projects that don't have as many restrictions, smaller agencies that don't have as many restrictions. The larger the agency, the more the restrictions. So if we go back to my example with San Diego Unified School District, Vista Unified School District won't have that many of the as strict requirements. They still have requirements. So when we're looking at finding our buyer and then determining whether that buyer is the right buyer for us, we need to take a look and see, okay, what are their minimum requirements? First question you want to ask, does this person buy your product or service? Now, if you went through the exercise of finding your buyer and you utilized your products and services, well, you've answered your question. Yes, they do. But what if you find a buyer and you're not quite sure whether or not they buy your product or service? Well, you know what? Call them up, send them an email. And in module 7, when we talk about marketing, I'm going to give you the exact words to say, how to go about doing this. But don't be afraid. Remember, these are people. Calling them up and saying, hey, my name is Cheryl Brown, and we provide small business supportive services, technical assistance to small business communities. What is the city of San Diego currently doing in the areas of purchasing small business technical assistance services? It's easy as that. It's like the KISS, whatever they call it, KISS theory. Keep it simple, stupid, or something like that. I always mess up those sayings. I don't know. I have like this brain block when it comes to that. Just ask. They're people. They'll answer you. So question number 1 is, does this person procure your product or service? If the answer is no, do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Take this person off your list. Simple as that. Now, for those of you who are listening here and watching this and you're like, but Cheryl, they could, they should buy my product or service. I get it. But woulda, coulda, shoulda doesn't pay the mortgage. Right now, we want to focus on those buyers that do purchase my product or service and forget about the rest. When you grow and you have a team of salespeople that all they do 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week is pursue business, then yeah, maybe you can have them pursue these people to try and convince them. But until then, stick with those that you can confirm already purchased your product or service. Now, another caveat with this is I always get is, well, if they're already buying from somebody else, then what's the point? Aha. The point is, at some point, that company they're buying from is going to fail to perform. They're going to do something. And then there you are to save the day. So, and this goes for the private sector as well. If you are marketing or you are trying to solicit business from the private sector, the public sector, the consumer sector, you want to make sure that you are targeting audiences that are already buying your product or service, because now all you have to do is convince them to buy from you. And why would they? Because you're you and you're better. They can buy from anybody, but why would they buy from you? So first and foremost, focus on marketing to those entities and those people that are already procuring your type of product or service. Number two, does your firm meet the minimum requirements? Well, we don't know right now. And there are a couple of different ways that you can find this out. One way is to take a look, some of the websites, some of the portals, they have a page that tells you all their requirements. Supplier registration, bidder list. This one here even tells you what the insurance requirements are. This will even tell you what how the company buys. And so some of the things that you want to be looking at for minimum requirements is insurance, bonding if required, and then past performance or minimum requirements or minimum years in business. Those are really the three things. Now, there are some others that get a little bit more nitpicky, but at this point, those are the three areas. Another thing you could do, and I keep using the County of San Diego just because it's an easier portal to navigate. Most of these portals are pretty much the same. It's just a question of where to find the information. So I did a little search prior to recording today for janitor. And then I also clicked on this one here because this is the contract. So this is the actual contract that the County of San Diego has with TNT Janitorial. All of this is public record. So I actually downloaded the contract. And so what this is 61 pages. It's the actual signed contract. What I can do here is, rather than reading all 61 pages, because that doesn't make any sense, is I'm going to move my photo down here. If you do Control F, I believe if you are an Apple user, it's Command F. But what you'll see is you got this little box up there. Up here, whoop, up there. Put in the word insurance. And what that is going to do is that's going to take you to the section of the contract that references insurance. So you can kind of see what their minimum insurance requirements are. So rather than having to read everything, you can go right to those sections. So here are the insurance requirements. Are you able to meet these insurance requirements? If not, move on. Another word I recommend searching is the word bond. And so let's see. Now that's going to bring you to the section that require a bond. And so for this one, they are requiring a bond. If you don't have the ability to secure a bond, if you don't have the financial resources to get a bond, that's okay. Then the county is just not the right buyer for you right now. Look at other buyers. Another one I like to look at is control find. We do the word minimum. And this will then bring us to the different sections that say minimum. Minimum standards, so criminal background requirements, minimum staffing, and I'll just go through those areas. So right here, janitorial staff required to have a minimum of 3 years experience. So these are going to tell you the minimum requirements. I don't want you to get too wrapped up in this, but at least it kind of gives you an idea of what you can find out as far as, okay, do they buy? Yes, they do. Can I meet their minimum requirements? Maybe. The third way for this, the third way, and this is the easiest, ask them. You've got a person, hey, just call them up, send them an email. Hey, Susan, what are the minimum requirements to be eligible for opportunities with the County of San Diego? Like insurance and past performance. This is the most direct way, and we'll learn this more in Module 7, it's a great way to get your name in front of the buyer. Now I'm going to go back to that contract for a moment. So this is kind of like a little added bonus for this module. Supposing you're looking at maybe being a subcontractor as opposed to a prime where you're directly to the agency. I recommend that you do both. But one of the things that can make it difficult is, okay, well, how do I find these prime contractors? Well, we know that TNT Janitorial Services has won the contract with the County of San Diego to do janitorial services. So now we need to find out, okay, well, let's contact TNT to see if maybe we can, perform on a couple of their properties. So I can go Control F again. I want you to search the at sign. So that is going to bring you to, let me get my little annotate. Whoops, draw. Okay, right here. Here's the point of contact for the county. And look at here. Whoops. Here is the point of contact for TNT Janitorial. You have a name, you have a phone number, you have an email. Now, just call Tam, introduce yourself. This is a way for you to also identify not only agency contacts, but prime contractors. Now, I'll be honest with you, not all portals are this easy to navigate, but it's there for you to get started. Another thing with this particular opportunity, and we're going to cover this in Module 9 when we talk to proposal writing, but if you do a Control F and you do the $sign, this is going to bring you down. Let's go all the way to the bottom. Keep on going. Nope, there it is. Okay, here we go. This is what the pricing is. So this is how much TNT Janitorial is charging for these locations. A great way to kind of take a look and see, can you be competitive? How are your pricing? Are you in the ballpark? Are you way low? Are you way high? Once we identify those things, we can really hone in on how we can be competitive with our bidding and our numbers. So that was just an added bonus. We will cover a little bit more of that in Module 9, which is Introduction to Proposal Writing. But question number 2. First of all, we had question number 1. Does this person buy your product or service? Yes. Okay. Question number 2. Can you meet your minimum requirements? Yes. Aha. Question number 3, is this the right buyer for you? And really, when we're talking about this question, is we want to look at the payment terms and the profit margins. Maybe it's not the right buyer for you. And that's okay. Not all business is good business. I don't believe in winning a project or bidding on a project and losing money. Now, there are some companies out there that is a strategy that they will use. So, for example, they may take their numbers and cut them off by 30% or 20%. We call that buying the bid. These are companies that typically have the capabilities to do this. They have other business that's supporting them. And they look at an opportunity and they say, we need to win this so that we can keep our staff employed. And they have a choice to make. And this isn't a right or wrong decision. This is a business choice. If you're a company and you're looking at an opportunity and it says, okay, well, if I bid it at these numbers, I have a good chance of not winning, which means I'd have to lay off all of my staff. Or I can cut my original bid amount by 30%, almost guaranteeing me a win, and only have to lay off 30% of my staff. What would you do? I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but as a small business, this is not something I recommend. This is not a strategy I recommend. Chances are, if you're pricing based on your cost as a small business, you will be competitive. But this is something, especially when you're a supplier, this is something you want to consider. Even if you're only getting 1% profit margin, it's still profit. And it may be, if you look at like $1 million contract, What's 1% of $1 million, especially when you consider that that project is also going to cover all of your costs. But more on that later on when we talk about introduction to proposal writing. But generally speaking, let's talk about terminology again. So terminology, you'll hear the terms net payment terms. Some of you may already know what this all means, but some of you don't. So let's just clarify what net payment terms means, especially when it comes to government contracting. Net payment terms is the number of days, typically business days, it will take you to get paid from the agency. There's a caveat here. Upon approved invoice. And that's where it can get a little sticky. So, for example, if you're awarded a pay for performance contract, there's a number of different terms for this, but basically what that means is you do the work, you invoice, and then you get paid. So let's take a look at a perfect situation. Supposing you're hired to do a project and you start on January 1 and you do all the work in the month of January. You then, typically, this is kind of a general example, you then have until February 10th to submit the report of your activity. The agency has 10 days to review the report and either ask for modifications or approves the report. 9 times out of 10, they're going to ask for modifications. It's just the case, especially if you're a little bit newer and this is a new agency that you're working with. But for argument's sake, let's say it's perfect, right? So you do all the work in January, you submit your report by February 10th. The agency has 10 days. So now we're down to February 20th. It's going to be a little bit longer than that because I'm just using, every single day. This is all business days, but for my brain and for ease of calculating, they approve your reports February 20th. You submit your invoice. They then have 5 days to review the invoice to make sure that it's accurate. So now we're at February 25th and they approve your invoice. At that point, it's on that point, February 25th, that the net terms starts counting. So if you're on a net 30, that means that you will get paid in a perfect world by March 25th for the work that you did in January. I know that sounds kind of scary. Most agencies, their payment terms are typically either net 30 or net 45. Most agencies do have small business programs in place to help support that. But that's why when we were in module 2, creating a foundation for success, we talked about obtaining funding in case you need it for cash flow. Every module here builds upon the previous modules. So understanding that maybe this might mean not to be the great opportunity for you because of the payment terms. There are agencies that are on a net 180. It's not their fault. It's just the way their financing and their funding is approved. So this is something that you'd want to take a look at. What are their net terms? Now, you can always go back to that contract and you can do that control find again. And then you can put the word invoice. And then that's going to bring you to the different areas where it refers to the invoice. So invoice is here, invoice up, here we go, payments. Net 30 from receipt and approval of invoice unless otherwise stated. So those are pretty good payment terms. Net 30 is pretty good. Now, if you are a certified small business or other certified business, you may have the opportunity to request better payment terms. Now, it doesn't mean that they're going to approve it, but you can request it. There are also some agencies that will pay quicker if you offer them a discount, like a 1% discount. Some agencies, they're super easy to do business. The smaller the agencies, they are pretty easy. And so typically with one of the agencies that we work with our family business, we do the work and typically within 2 weeks, they pay the invoice. And so it all depends. everything really comes right down to being accurate and thorough with your invoicing, with your reporting, making sure that you have, when you submit your invoice, you have all the information needed that they need, and things should go fairly smoothly from there. But as always, as a small business, sometimes these things fly by the wayside. But you want to make sure that this is good business for your payment terms. And then, of course, with the profit margins. Okay, frequently asked questions. And I know we covered a couple of these. What if, would, could, should? Well, let's see. Remember, woulda, coulda, should doesn't pay the mortgage. What if my product or service is innovative? There's nothing out there like it. Well, there are some additional programs with the various agencies that you can present your innovative product or service to. One of the things you would want to identify, though, is what does your innovative product replace what they're currently using? Or what umbrella does that innovative product fall under? And those are the people that you would approach. Now, if you have an innovative product or service that has not had a proof of concept, has not been tested, has not been sold before, the government, unless they have a specific program, cannot buy it. They can't. But if you do have something that's innovative, I highly recommend you connect with us. We do have 2 centers that work with small businesses in technology commercialization and product innovations and things of that nature. I would say connect with them and then go from there, and then continue working on the modules here. This is the chicken and the egg now. Okay, so if I need past performance, how can I get past performance? If they won't give me past performance, how am I? And so you go around and round and round and round and round. Remember, deep breaths. Find another buyer. Work with an agency that doesn't have as strict requirements. And then why can't I just try? I mean, I know I don't, you never know, right? I don't meet the minimum requirements, but this is a perfect opportunity. I'm just going to try. Let me tell you something. In the private sector, yeah, give it a shot. In the government sector, it's not going to work. If you can't meet the minimum requirements, they're never going to look at your proposal. None of it. So all of that time you're investing with responding will mean absolutely nothing. This is a question of, okay, how are you going to invest your time, and where is your time best spent? Would it be spent, if it's going to take you 10 hours, for example, if it's going to take you 10 hours to put together a response, but you can't meet your minimum requirements? Or should you be taking that 10 minutes and identifying additional buyers and marketing to those buyers? Please, if you can't meet the minimum requirements, do not pass go, do not collect $200 and go either straight to subcontracting or find a different buyer. Eventually, you'll be able to work with that buyer as you build those capabilities. Homework. That list of buyers that you got from Module 4, hopefully you've got 10 buyers. Research their minimum requirement. How? Well, we already covered that. Either A, which my favorite is just call them or email them. B, take a look at their portal, see if they have something in there that talks about, minimum requirements like this one here. Or search a previous contract or a current contract or a current bid. Just search it. Ideally, you'd find one that's within your industry. That way it'll be a little bit more relevant. But that's it. Honestly, easiest way, fastest way, shoot them an email. Great way to also introduce yourself. Ooh, okay, you are halfway through the mandatory modules. This is module 5. Is this the right buyer for you? Next steps. You're going to go to back to the website, On-Demand Government Contracting Series, and then click on the plus sign, and you're going to go to the next module, which is module 6, capability statements. The capability statement is the one marketing piece you are going to need as you pursue opportunities with the government sector, either directly or as a subcontract. As a reminder, if you need help, if you have something that is pressing, there's a deadline, please reach out to us. We want to make sure that we are supporting you every step of the way. So if something does come up while you are going through these modules, let us know and we will get you the support right away to address that situation. And then we're going to refer you right back to the modules. Until next time, can't wait to see you again. Coming up, Module 6, Capability Statement. And until then, looking forward to helping you.